lightning talks about Fedora username change as a case study for what I think a good project for diversity, work, and related stuff. So let me present myself. My name is Scherer. For people who know me, I still work at Red Hat. I still principal system administrator in the open source program office. Still the same pictures and since the last 10 years. And just to start with a quick show of hands, who thinks that they would need a username change or needed in the past? Just raise your hand. Great. So 4 people out of, let's say, 100 people. I mean, nobody's going to watch that on the stream, so I can lie. So yeah, the project basically involves fixing all Fedora infrastructure applications, because right now we cannot change username at all. What you can do is just drop your username and recreate a new one, which is time-consuming. You need to fix all documentation, etc., etc. And the question is, why do we want to do that? Because right now we do not do that. People complain, but not too much. So the first question is GDPR compliance. I could explain that, but I do not have the time. So last time I did, it was half an hour of my 1 hour talk. Because people ask, I heard that sometimes being nice is nice. Because some people are more impacted than others. Like nowadays, people do not always change their name when they get married, but in some culture, in some country, they do, and most of the time it's most likely for men and women, the woman will get a new name rather than the reverse. And sometimes people change their first name because they do a gender transition. Sometimes people get adopted, and sometimes people decided to use Dark Lord 69 as their Fedora username, and they suddenly regret when they start to get a job. So there is plenty of reasons, but mostly impacting minority and people making bad choice. So, yeah, that's most a question of justice. But again, I do not have time to speak about that. You had to be there 2 weeks ago in France for listening to the full talk. But yeah, I want to speak about why that's a good activity for recruiting newcomers. So just to make sure that everybody is on the same page. When I speak about community, it's more a group of people working together. I know because community is pretty overloaded as a term. Like sometimes I mean community of users, sometimes that means just group of people living together, especially in the US. So here it's like group of people working together on a project. Project, again, a word which is overused. I would define that as what a community do, but like circular definition, not going to work great. So a project, I mean something that has an output, producing something, and not just changing something, like producing a Linux distribution, producing an encyclopedia, producing a database that can be rendered as a map, like OpenStreetMap. And it has to be here long-term, at least for that presentation, so something where we expect to not do it and drop it, because otherwise that's still a project, not one I'm interested in. And yeah, once you have your project, your community, your main output, I would say product, but then whether people do not like using that. What you want to do is attract people, and usually for that you need to have some task. You cannot just set bug tracker and have people come. We tried that. It do not work. I mean, it worked, but not at the scale we hope it would work. So in an ideal world, if you want to attract new people, you need to have a small and time-bound task. Rewriting the Linux kernel in Rust, that's not small, that's not time-bound. Fixing one small bug, that's a small bug, and once you did it, we do not expect you to maintain that forever, except maybe some Fedora people, where the last person who touched a project become maintainer for life until there is another person falling in that trap. You need to have a steady supply of search tasks, because if you just have one, then someone will fix it, and then you no longer have anything. I usually give the example of translations. That's great, because new words get added to software every time, and every release you have something to do. So that's kind of a forever supply of easy tasks. Ideally, you need to have something which is close to the main output of your project. So for example, something close to the creation of a distribution, close to the creation of an encyclopedia, etc., because that's where there is more people, more mentor, and more meaningful. You have something that should be able to scale to 0. Like if it's not done, that's not blocking. again, translation. If something is not translated in French, well, French people will complain, but then they can just do it. And something that can scale up to 11, like if everybody wants to do something, then you need to have enough work for every people. A distribution is perfect. There is always more software to package than packager, so it scales. And ideally something where you can pair and mentor people, because then you will be able to create some social links that's important for people to come back to feel that they have a friend. Just in here, we'll tell that Fedora Linux, it's mostly about community, but I think it's mostly about Fedora as a distribution. But yeah, important to have social support. And for the precise case of wanting to do something around diversity, you need something related to the group you target. And that's pretty important because I do not want to say all people are selfish, but enough are. For example, I can give an example. In OpenStreetMap, you can add restaurant because that's a map. And in order to engage vegetarian, you can say, oh, but you can tag a vegetarian restaurant on the map, so you see where you can go in a new city. And if you do that, it's like fun, it's easy, and then when a new restaurant is added or old one closed, you fix it, and that's it, and that works. I know they do that, for example, for women group where they tagged stuff around childcare, like if you go to a restaurant, can you change your baby, etc., etc. And that works because that solves a problem that the targeted group is having, knowing if you can go to a place. So yeah, to go back to Fedora, I said, yeah, you need small tasks, and I'm like, yeah, but there is one big task, fixing everything. That's not a small task. And we're like, what is he going to say? Well, yes, that's a big task, but that's a big task made of small tasks, because the biggest task was fixing the backend, and that was done 5 years ago. Because before, the reason, well, oh, we cannot do it. Technically, it's not possible, but it will work when we fix the system and do not use your custom stuff and use free IPA. And yeah, free IPA supports renaming user. It's just that everything else don't. So now what we want is do like Mythbuster, if you know the TV show where they just try stuff. It's basically that. The plan is to abuse or use the testing infrastructure of Fedora and get someone volunteer to be like a guinea pig. So we'll pick someone, we say, now we change your username and we will see how it works. It will most likely break. I mean, I would be surprised if nothing breaks, to be honest. I look at all the infra and nothing seems to be immune to the problem. But then it's okay. It's an infrastructure made for test. It will not break production. And what we will get out of that? Well, we will get people who learn how to test, because I give you a project, for example, the Fedora calendar. I tell you how to use it, and you check something, and then you discover what breaks. So that's perfect for learning QE. And that's perfect also for developer, because that's mostly Python developer, but there is also for Go, Ruby, and PHP. And for example, for Fedora calendar, I already looked at it. It's just a question of changing the database, which is, well, not trivial, but not super complex, and fixing, I think I counted 3 different if. So that's pretty much good for learning how to do something. And once you fix that, we do not, again, expect you to maintain that stuff forever, no matter what people on the Fedora booth will tell you. You can just fix that, learn Python, work with others. Ideally, something that we also want for that project is a project manager, because I was supposed to start that at the end of March. Then it got delayed to May, and I was supposed to have something to present, then it wasn't. So something which is good at project management, which is not me, would be helpful, but if nobody wants to do it, well, I started the project, so I will have to finish. And something very important, if you know a pastry chef, because once everything is finished, I want to get chocolate cake, and that's very important. So if you want to help, we have a Matrix channel called pride@fedoraproject.org. Can come and ask. I'm on PTO for 2 weeks, so I'm not going to work. But after that, we will start the first stuff, which is finding a project to test and fixing, and do it again, until it's fixed or until we stop. And yes, I know the irony of doing that on Matrix, while Matrix do not allow you to rename your username since forever. and there is a ticket open since 7 years, but it's going to happen very, very soon, or so I heard. And yeah, and if you have any questions, that's the right moment to ask. Or we still 5 minutes, that's it. So if everything was clear, no? Yeah.
So for this project, where do you see in terms of like building that team, and also looking at the effort required to organize that? Like, where do you see as the landing place for people who are interested in this? Like, how would you bring people together to work on this project?
So the question is, how do I see people working together for that project? My initial plan was to do some kind of test day where we take one application after the other, and depending on how much people come, we just do the test and everybody tests and breaks something. Later, I don't know, every time I plan something, it do not go according to plan, so my idea is just not plan anything and see after 2 or 3 stuff. My idea is to get first a bug tracker once I decide on the name. Remember that naming stuff in IT is hard. And later we'll see. Again, you know as well as me that the Fedora community is not always great at following order or this kind of stuff. So just having a list, just having someone to do the tracking of tasks and doing like regular meeting and something like that. I plan to basically abuse the DEI meeting for that and just open a ticket and give a feedback, and from time to time just abuse my access on the blog to post my blog post and use my access for mailing list to force people to read my mail, this kind of stuff. It's like a long-term plan of that. But, yeah.
This wouldn't be step one, but Fedora test days could be an interesting way of like, once some of that work is done, doing that like application.
Yeah, definitely Fedora test day. Another part was fixing the distribution itself, but for that, that requires. I mean, yeah. So the question was using Fedora test day, and yeah, using the distribution, because right now if you change your username on the distribution, there is something that breaks. For a start, you need to link your username, your home directory, otherwise script will break. There is network manager that hardcode your name and everything, and I cannot test all the package in the distribution, but yeah, that's something where we could just say to people, do that in a VM and use your usual stuff and see if it breaks. So yeah, that was the plan, but first the issue was Fedora application, the infrastructure, rather than the Fedora stuff. But if people want to join, I will be happy to delegate that part to someone else and push blog posts, etc., etc. Any more questions? I would say don't be shy, but I will be shy at your place, so be shy if you want. Well, thanks for listening. If people want to contact me, that's basically either sending me an email or finding me on IRC. If there is someone on Twitter, Facebook, blah, 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 that's not me. Yes, Justin?
I was going to ask, are you using a Nintendo Switch controller?
Yes.
Your clicker?
Yes. I can also, if you look on my GitHub account, that's a Joy-Con to click. It's written in Rust. I'm very proud of it. That's why I keep using it. Just the Switch one. If you want to sponsor me a Switch 2 so I can add the feature, I will be happy to get it and keep it for QA-related reason. So yeah, you can contact me, or I will be there for DevConf at least until Sunday after the end, and I will be at the party tonight. Okay, anyway, thanks for coming, and see you later.